Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your boy AJTRIP, and welcome to That's Shoot, my weekly episodic show where I talk about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. And what went on this week in professional wrestling was just a surprise and shock to me. Jey Uso on Monday Night Raw losing the World Heavyweight Championship to Gunther. I felt a lot of emotions: sadness, anger, disbeliefment, whatever.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
If that's a word. I just couldn't believe it. I just like, why? Why was it like? Why did Jey Uso only get 51 days as the World Heavyweight Champion? Was this out of pity? You know, Jay's been working there for however many years, been loyal to the company. So you're gonna just give him the World Heavyweight Championship, give it to him for a couple months, and then just go back to Gunther? I'm still in shock about it now, and I just don't know what the hell the thing is. Now, there's been some speculation about what's the reasons why this happened. And there's a lot of people who are wondering, like, what's the reason why this happened. Um, and to me, all of it, it doesn't seem anything. It doesn't make any sense at all. No sense at all whatsoever. So here are some of the things that have been talked about, right? There's been some talk about that maybe Jey Uso has some nagging injuries, and so what this was about was that this was just to get him off television for a while to recover from those nagging injuries. Which, okay, on one part, I understand. I understand. Yeah, you want your wrestlers healthy, especially you're probably your most popular star. You want him healthy, so so that he can do this. But there are so many ways to keep him healthy. One of the ways would be not to have him not to keep having to get beat up each and every week. Because that was the story they were telling. Look, the story I thought they were telling was that Gunther was saying that Jey Uso was going on too much, but Jey Uso was showing that he actually has the heart of a champion, and he's going to get he's going to get over all those obstacles and defeat Gunther again, and show why he is World Heavyweight Championship material, and why anything like that. That's what I thought they were saying. They certainly threw that shit out the window, didn't they? So if he has nagging injuries, there's totally ways to do that, right? He can be on the show. He can cut his promos. He can be on the show to save people, right? Do many things. If you have to have him wrestle, put him in tags or 6-man tags, and have him just do the stuff that he things that won't aggravate those nagging injuries or anything like that. There's so many ways to do it, and even in fact, we live in a world now where the whole 30-day title reign thing, you to defend your title at least every 30 days, or you can be stripped of it. That's no longer a thing. It's no longer a thing. That's been gone. So why do you? So why why does even Jey Uso need to have to even defend the title? You know, if he's getting nagging injuries and let's say he needs, you know, 2 or 3 weeks off, right? Which again, this would have been perfect, right? So let's just say, again, some nagging injuries. So let's say that Jey Uso could beat Gunther this past Monday on Raw. After the match, Logan Paul comes out and he hits the one left shot, puts him on the table, and gets him and does the moonsault on him with the table again. You could then make a match for Jey Uso versus Logan Paul and Night of Champions, and take him off TV for the next couple weeks. Like he wouldn't have to, like, maybe he should show up like on the 27th, because I think they're gonna do that SmackDown from Saudi Arabia, right? He can be on that show on the 27th to attack Logan Paul and say he's ready to have him out his neck and injuries, right? So I don't know. I don't think that it's nagging injuries. You know, if it's one major injury, like, I can understand that, like, you know, but I would still think that someone out there, Sean or PW Insider, or someone would even be, someone would have had that by now. That's the reason why Jey Uso, that's the reason why Jey Uso's title reign was short, because his nag, he's got something that he needs to take care of, you know, and he needs to be out for the next couple months. So they decided to put the title on Gunther. So, okay, that's totally understandable. And maybe that still will be the case. You know, just because we haven't heard anything just yet doesn't mean that still isn't the case. So maybe that could be the case. Right? So there's that. There's this other thing that, you know, that they're gonna do, is that, you know, some other people have speculated that they put the title on Gunther, so that Sammy wins King of the Ring, and then Sammy and Gunther at SummerSlam. And I would say that's no, that's ridiculous. Because again, we live in a world where, although heels and faces are you know, separated, and they should be, and things like that, you know, a face versus face match isn't like back in the 80s and 90s, where, you know, they rarely would do it, because, you know, people felt like they had to, you know, cheer for one person, right? You know, and they didn't want, you know, they didn't want to, like, not cheer for the other babyface. They wanted to cheer for others, you know, unless they did it unless it was a big money match, things like that, and we saw that. But for sometimes they didn't you know, they didn't do that. But we live in a world now, but that's not the case, you know. For the most time, when there's a babyface versus babyface match, both babyfaces are both liked, and they don't need to. So doing Sammy versus Jey wouldn't be it wouldn't be a bad thing. And then there's a thought off of that, is that Sammy beats Gunther, wins the championship, and then that's when Seth Rollins cashes in his Money in the Bank. Cashes in on Sammy, who becomes world champion like he promised, but it's taken away by Seth Rollins. So then there is that, right? And again, again, they could have done that with they could have done that with Sammy. They also could have done that with Jey. Like, have Jey win, and then have Jey get, you know, turned on by, not turned on, but have you get cashed in by Seth. See, and here's the biggest thing it is with me, with the whole Jey Uso thing. It's the fact that I wasn't expecting him to have a long run. If he had a super long run, that's great. Him hold it to the next WrestleMania, that's fine. Once Seth Rollins came out on the Monday night after Mania with Braun Breaker and Heyman, and you saw them together, you pretty much knew that at least I thought that Seth Rollins was going to be the next World Heavyweight Champion, because that's a group, and the way they was going around, it just doesn't make sense. So if Jey held it to SummerSlam, that's fine. That's what Damian Priest did. That's what a lot of people did. In '97, the Undertaker did that. Undertaker won at WrestleMania. He held it to SummerSlam when they took it off him and gave it to Bret Hart. Right? There are many others. I'm just going back in the history real quick and thinking about it. I guess you can even say, like, in WrestleMania 2, not WrestleMania 2, in 1992, at WrestleMania when Macho Man Randy Savage held it, he went to all the way to I don't think it was like Survivor Series. I think it was a little bit after SummerSlam, because the SummerSlam match was him versus the Warrior, and I think he kept it a couple weeks later, and a couple weeks later, Ric Flair beat him for the championship. Like a special event or a house show or something like that. So I mean, so it's not. So even some of the greatest of all time held held the title from WrestleMania to SummerSlam. So it's not a bad thing. And I understood that it's a nice run, and that's what this should have been. And the fact that it wasn't, that's what gets under me so much. That's what, and another thing that gets under me too is that for some reason, fuckboys of the IWC have just spreaded this. They've hated on Jey for some reason, and I don't know why. They've said that he's not. They said that they've hated the championship material. They say he can't wrestle when he can. All of this stuff, right? All of this stuff, and they just hate it. And then when they do this, and what you see on Twitter and everything like that, oh, we now have a real world champion. I just want to say, fuck you. I'm going to hit you in the head with a baseball bat. I really do. Because Jey was a real world champion, or at least should have been a real world champion. 51 days, I am hoping. I don't know if this, but I am kind of hoping that what this leads to is Gunther taking on Goldberg, whether it's at Night of Champions. That's another rumor. The rumor is that now Goldberg on Monday will make an appearance, and he will make his open challenge for Gunther. And I hope whether it's at Night of Champions or whether it's on Saturday night's main event, I'm hoping that when it's Gunther versus Goldberg, and I'm hoping Goldberg beats Gunther. And not only I'm hoping he beats him in squash fashion. The way he beat Brock Lesnar in squash fashion. The way he beat The Fiend in squash fashion. I'm hoping that's happened so that all you idiots who are saying Gunther's the world champion, you should shut the fuck up. And now your real world champion just got squashed by Goldberg. I'm hoping that, because I'm petty. I'm gonna be petty. It's ridiculous. It really is. So then the question that's been on that's the topic of this video is, what's next for Jey Uso? What is next for Jey? I do not know. there is something out there. I think it was put out there by Russell Votes or one of those seven things that at some point they were going to make Jey and Jimmy bring Jey and Jimmy back together for the Usos. Now, I have no problem with that. But is that but then why do this to Jey? Right? Because Jey is, again, he's the most over guy. He's in the top three. Is always seemingly merch selling, at least has been. I think Ron and Killings and that fucking Mr. Iguana dude. They may have jumped into it like this past week or so. But yeah, I'm speechless because again. So is that why you take out the title? Couldn't you have Jey Uso with the championship? Yeah. Or even again, right? Let's say this, right? So let's say Punk and Cena, not Cena, Punk and Cena. Punk and Cena is a whole other thing. But let's say Punk and Sammy, they go off and they're doing their own thing, right? Seth Rollins has cashed in the Money in the Bank contract on Jey, right? And Jey wants to get his rematch, and so he gets his rematch, and we got the interference from the Bronze. Listen, we get the interference from the Bronze, right? And then we got that, and then Jey gets another shot, and again we get interference from the Bronze, but maybe that leads to Jimmy coming out and helping Jey. Because at some point you do have to go down the route of Seth versus Roman, right? I think that you have to. So maybe Jimmy comes back, maybe Roman comes back. So then maybe we even get to War Games, right? And we've got Roman, Jimmy, and Jey, and maybe Sammy or maybe someone else going up against Seth, the Bronze, and someone else. They get into it, right? And we have a War Games match. And then after the War Games, we're now leading to the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, Seth versus Roman, right? We're leading to that, and then maybe now the Usos are back, and the Usos are going to take on the Bronze. Okay, that's good. Now the Usos are back together. And that's the way to do it, but still, Jey Uso still gets his run as champion, the run that he deserves, and you still get the Seth and Roman stuff happening, and you have all this other stuff that can be done. But you take it off of him now, so that you can put him in a tag team, put him back in a tag team later, and that's something else that I want to state here as well. I don't want Jey Uso to just be put right back into the tag team scene. I don't want that. Because you're going to bring back the Usos. That's totally fine. Let's totally get it. The Usos coming together for a few months. But Jey Uso is a single star. I'm sorry, he is now a single star. And sure, every now and then you can bring him back and have him do bloodline stuff, or you can put him back together with the Usos. That's all fine and dandy, and that means no problem. But Jey Uso's a single star, And if you just put Jey Uso back into a tag team in the Uso and just leave him there for the rest of the time being, that is so disrespectful to Jey. It is so. I think it is so stupid. I don't know what you're doing, right? Unless for some reason Jey wants this, and that's a whole nother thing, right? If we find out at some point that this is what Jey's wanting, he didn't. He wanted to be world champion, but he didn't want to be it for long. He wanted to be, you know, no, he wanted to be. He wants to be back in a tag team with his brother. You know, he wants to do all. He wants to be all of this, right? So I am. So if that's what he wants, okay. But I would be a little disappointed in Jey. I would, because you know that's you had it, man. You had it. You're tremendously over. They just started doing you do the full letters, one word, yeet. Like, they've started doing that with you now. But now you want to go back into a tag team? So, I don't know. Again, I just don't know what this is about. I don't know what is going to happen. I don't know why the fuck this happened, and I really want to know why. I really want to know, and I want to know what's going on. Because to me, this, and I said this, I defended Triple H a lot. I defended him a lot because I think people. And that's one. I was also kind of mad at myself because I kind of went fuckboy IWC guy after Monday night when Jey Uso lost. I was screaming "fuck you" Triple H almost as loud as I could. Then I went on Twitter and I tweeted out "fuck you Triple H" because I don't want to be one of those fuckboy IWC guys who don't like what the company does with one of their favorites or something like that, and then they lash out at Triple H and they lash out, because their favorites isn't, getting what they feel like they should get. And Jey Uso is one of my favorites now, and like I said, I've been saying it this whole time. I think he deserved it. He at least deserved to hold on to it to SummerSlam at the very least. And like I said, like I'm sad and I'm angry as to why that did not happen for Jey. And I would like to know why. What is exactly what's the reason that this has happened? And to me, it just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, so I quickly just looked. I wanted to see if there was anything out there. And Dave Meltzer has been reporting that the reason why Jey Uso took the title off to Jey Uso is so that the match at Saturday Night's main event between Goldberg and Gunther can be bigger than it is, and it said it was always going to be Gunther versus Goldberg as the Saturday Night's main event in Atlanta, Goldberg's hometown. But having a title match, having put the title on the line makes it bigger, right? It makes it bigger. And it's. And I had just mentioned that yes, I had just mentioned that you know, I'm hoping that Goldberg wins the title from Gunther. I still want it, but it's frustrating because Goldberg versus Gunther doesn't need the title, especially if Gunther's going to beat Goldberg. If Gunther is going to beat Goldberg, it doesn't need to have a championship. The fact that it's a retirement match for Goldberg just makes it, that makes it enough. But the one thing I have with, with WWE, one of my pet peeves for them is that they are just for some reason they are so worried about AEW. They're so worried about AEW, and it doesn't make any sense why. AEW is a fly to you, and you are a giant fly swatter, an absolute giant fly swatter, and for you to worry about this insignificant thing all the fucking time. Everything that you are doing is like to counteract what they are doing. You are putting on 2 shows on July 12th. You're putting on the NXT Great American Bash, and then you're putting on Saturday night's main event. You're putting on 2 events to take away the people who are for AEW All In. That's what AEW's All In is going to be. And then AEW, they did something where they said, okay, well, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but they said, okay, fine, we'll move our show up then. I think maybe Saturday Night's main event had been long announced for July 12th. I think when they announced All In on July 12th, the WWE came out and announced Saturday Night's main event would be all 12. On July 12th, they decided, okay, well, we'll move our show up then. We'll start our show at 3 or 4 o'clock, whenever we're going to do it. We'll start it then. So then we're done a little bit after they get started with Saturday Night's main event. Right? I think that's a good counteract to AEW. Give them credit in the world for doing that. Then what is WWE doing? Well, shit. But now we got to give them something else. So now they're going to give us the NXT Great American Bash to counteract their programming. I mean, WWE is actually acting like they're the one that's behind. Like they're the one that's. I wouldn't expect AEW to be trying to do something like this, to try to grab audience away from WWE. This shouldn't be this should be the other way around. It should be WWE counter programming AEW. So now because of this, you've now decided that Jey Uso's title reign is shortened because you want Gunther and Goldberg to be even bigger, to try to take even more stuff away from AEW, and you just leave Jey Uso out in the cold. So, and here's the thing, and what about this? What about this, huh? So, like I said, I kind of, you didn't see it, but I paused recording and I went looking, on the internet for like some Jey Uso stuff, see if anything else have been talked about, anything like that. So there's one site that says that Jey Uso can become a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion, which would be great. I would like to see Jey Uso. I would really like to see Jey Uso get an actual run with a championship. And I think here's the thing, and I was saying this all last year, from those of you guys who may remember, like, do it when you can, right? Because he's not going to be as over. He's not going to be as over now and then and now in the future. It's just how it is. That's just how it is. Even the greats, Hogan, Austin, Rock, they all lose steam at some point, and they're still popular, and they still will have the name chanted, and they'll still yeet, and they'll still do all of this, but someone will come behind them and be even more popular. When Braun Breaker breaks away from Seth Rollins and his group, he is going to be the biggest babyface there can be, and he is and he is going to be an amazing champion. And that's a guy that you can seriously think about having him hold a World Heavyweight Championship for multiple years, like he had with Roman, especially if you're going to do 2 championships. So you needed to act while the fire was hot with Jey. And I was saying it last year, I thought he should have won the Money in the Bank. You know, and have him cash in, and if you did that, you could have easily had Jey Uso cash in the Money in the Bank, right? And have him cash in, have him win it. You didn't have to have Gunther. You could have went totally different ways. You could have had Gunther go down another way, and we should talk about that a little bit as well, about Gunther and things like that. While we're here, even though this is about Jey Uso, we can branch off to Gunther in just a second. But you could have had Jey Uso win it. You didn't have to put the title on Gunther. You could have had Jey Uso cash in on on Damian Priest or on whoever was going to be whoever you could have had be the champion at SummerSlam. You could have gave him a run, and then he could have held it until Royal Rumble. You could have held it until WrestleMania. In which, guess what? If you would have gave Gunther the Royal Rumble, you could have, it would have been totally fine and totally understandable, right? Totally understandable. And you could have done that. Hell, there could have been so many other ways that you could have done it. And then you did what you did it this year. You could have had him had his run, and you just don't know. And so, and I was reading something on the site that said, how he can become a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion. And there's something. I didn't read what it said, but then it does make you think about the King of the Ring tournament, and they announced pretty much all of the matches for the qualifying matches and things like that. And one of the matches going to happen next week on Raw is that it's going to be Sheamus, Big Bronson Reed, Rusev, and then there's a question mark there. And many people a lot of people right there. Some people are saying, oh, it's Obafemi. They're going to bring up Obafemi for big meaty men slapping meat. They're going to have Ilya's coming back. Although there have been some reports that Ilya had to step back with his knee. Now he won't be able to come back until September. There are even some idiots out there that want to see Mystic Garner in there, and God, I hope not. And then there's a speculation that maybe Jey can go back in there now. Now Jey gets that spot. I should also say some people won't Karrion Kross because Karrion Kross is he talk about someone not striking with the iron is hot. And I said fire earlier. There's a whole bunch of things. There's gonna be a whole bunch of Sam Jackson memes in this video. English motherfucker, can you speak it? Because I'm not speaking English, but I'm just so absolutely frustrated. But yeah, there's gonna be so many people talking about who they think that person is. Some people have been saying that to Jay Lawson, maybe now Jey Uso can get in there. But do you want that? Is that something that you want? Because if Jey Uso goes in there, I think Jey Uso has to win, right? To keep, and then does Jey Uso win? See, again, the thing is that Jey Uso needs to now, after losing this, and yes, you still want him to keep that, but you want him to win. And this is also something where maybe this is something that Jey Uso doesn't need. It's kind of like the thing with Money in the Bank. You know, Rhea Ripley doesn't need Money in the Bank. She's Rhea fucking Ripley, and she can just do what she needs to do to get a title shot anytime she wants to. And that's what kind of Jey Uso is kind of like now, right? He's at that point to where he's main event Jey Uso, and he can get a championship anytime he wants. Or at least he should be. So it's just a weird thing that you just don't know what is happening. And I was getting ready to say this, and then we'll pivot to Gunther just a little bit. I think I was getting ready to say this. I was talking about like me defending Triple H, anything like that, online people. But I think there have been two big L's for Triple H. One was the whole Austin Theory cashing in on the United States Championship. That buried Austin Theory, and he has not been able to recover since. He just hasn't been. And he's been in a tag team with Grayson Waller for over a couple of years now, and it just hasn't been it for Austin Theory. And I'm very shocked about that. Like Austin Theory someone he might need to be, put in that sales group, to try to get him back over, get him back some heat. Talking about a future, he's got a future in this business as well. As being he could have a future of being a top guy in this business. He really could. So that's one L, and then I think this is another L. The way this happened with especially if on Saturday night's main event you just have Gunther beat Goldberg, because again that doesn't need a championship. It doesn't, and you're doing it just to try to take away viewers from AEW, which you should not be giving two shits about. You should not be giving two shits about them. You just shouldn't. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm saying that I want Goldberg to win it, just so all the Jey haters can be, and the Gunther slobbers can be, so they can be angry, just as angry as I was, being petty. But it almost now, after talking this through, it almost feels like that's what should happen. That's the only thing that would make sense for a reason why you would take the title off of Jey Uso. Because so that you can have Goldberg retire as the World Heavyweight Champion. That's the only sense it makes at this point. And really quickly, let's go. We'll talk about Gunther, and then we can end this. So, Gunther has some detractors, and I'm not one of them. But there have been some detractors for Gunther, that he's actually been born. He's really not a good wrestler or anything like that, which is kind of interesting. Born, he has a no nonsense thing about him, but I would not call him boring. And other things. And I think a couple of things I saw is that you know, someone who was angry, and he was on, you know, they were on Twitter doing that as well. It was like, can't Gunther go a long time in this company without being a champion? Because there's this stat that, you know, they've been touting that it's like 77%. That was before Mondays. It was like 77% of his time in WWE has been as a champion. Whether it was the NXT UK champion, whether it was the Intercontinental champion, or whether it was the World Heavyweight champion. Yeah, the majority of his time in WWE has been as a champion. And some people maybe want to see that maybe we need to see Gunther out the championship, see how he you know, comes back, and I think that's actually good. That's actually a good idea. It would be interesting to see how can Gunther be as, you know, without, you know, the championship. And I also think something would be is how does Gunther survive adversity, right? Because I think one thing that you could have done for Gunther is if you had Jey beat Gunther on Monday. Okay, so then now you insert him as part of that. You insert him into in that fatal 4-way match in which he wins, and then maybe you even have him go all the way to where he faces. And the way to get the bracket set up is that you could very much end up with a Raw guy versus Raw guy, or a SmackDown guy versus a SmackDown guy. That's very. Yeah, you can easily see the way they got it set up, unless they did a mistake and they set it up wrong on the graphic, and maybe they might fix it. But you can easily see that could be the way that it goes. So if you have Sami Zayn go up against Gunther and have Sami Zayn beat Gunther again, that's totally, and he doesn't win the King of the Ring again, and then that's fine. Yeah, that's how does Gunther act to not being as dominant as he once was? How does he react to that? That's a good story for Gunther to tell. But they've gone the way they have, and so we'll see. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Alright guys, that's going to be it for That's a Shoot, my That's a Shoot. So normally what I do is that I'm normally not someone who likes to delete comments, or, you know, a lot of people for having a different opinion than I do, right? I'm not someone who does that, right? If you disagree with me, if you have a different opinion of me, yeah, I don't necessarily care. Like, name calling, depending on the type of name that you call me, even then I probably won't, you know, block you, delete your comment. But I'm gonna be very truthful with you. I'm still not over. I'm still in whatever stage of grief that I am about Jey Uso's, you know, turn. So if you come into the comments dancing on Jey Uso's grave, I will delete your comment. I will. I will delete your comment and I will block you. Because I'm still right now in whatever stage of grief that you get into. Right, so I'm still there. So, but please post your comments down below. Tell me what you guys think. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. This is your boy AJTRIP signing off. As always, be good to each other, y'all. Be careful out there. And I am out.